passe super l'artiste, super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De er i semifinale igjen!
Hello everyone and welcome to the Uninformed Handball Hour. It's Chris O'Reilly here with Alex Kulash. How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing great, Chris. I'm rested, ready to go.
You were on holiday last week. Tell us a little bit about it. Give us the highlights.
It was a lovely holiday. Puerto Rico. Our goal this year is to stay inside the US and not travel back to Europe too much. So technically, Puerto Rico is a US territory. So that fits into our rule. And just a lovely beach holiday, trying to surf. And I say trying to surf because I'm just so frustrated with surfing, Chris. You know, you make a bit of progress. You buy a surfboard. You think, okay, next time I'm going to go surfing, I'm going to be good. And you're just back to square one. You're just being smashed around by waves. And then two of the days, there was some pretty intense waves, like up to 15 foot. And wow. One morning we're like, we're actually ready for this. I can actually paddle out. It wasn't as big as the 15-foot one, but there's some pretty big waves out there. And like, you know what? I'm ready to paddle out here. I can do this. Get out there and nearly drowned at least 3 times. Like literally being held underwater by multiple waves, having to like jump off the reef to get above water and breathe before paddling in defeat. So frustrated.
Sounds like a very relaxing holiday.
It's so relaxed.
Good stuff. Good to know you survived anyway, and you're back for this show. And after our recovery, or in Alex's case, struggling to stay alive after the Euro, we're gonna jump properly back in to the handball action now. For the rest of the season. We had a morning club last week where I spoke to Kevin Damas about the European League. And actually, European League is going to be a bit of a topic as well today for our interview in the pod as we speak to Alfred Jönsson from Skjern, as I had a chance to speak to him arriving in Gothenburg yesterday for their European League game against Sävehof. But we're going to jump around a few of the big leagues and competitions in Europe and see what has been going on there, because there's been some big news in Denmark, in Germany, and in the Champions League as well. What do you want to start with?
So I want to start with like a bit of a theoretical thing, maybe.
Fun.
Theoretical thing. And it's been nice seeing the German and Danish leagues kind of take advantage of that European championship momentum. You have straight away, we saw some pretty big games in the Bundesliga, Magdeburg, Kiel, Magdeburg, Flensburg, these big games matching up where people are like, okay, let's watch this. The Danish Cup had the Final Four, which was pretty exciting, again, capitalizing on that momentum. And the Champions League just had a round where things happened. And then we moved on. So that is, I feel like there is that need to capitalize on the European Championship, and some leagues are doing it well. Some competitions like the Champions League, I think, is just like they could dive into some sort of elimination or knockout, and things could get pretty exciting right now. But we're still in the group stage. We're still wondering what's going to happen. While the teams that are going to go through are already pretty much guaranteed.
So what would you recommend then in that case? You're talking theoretical. You want to have the preliminary round of the group phase done by the time the major championship is happening, and then straight into the knockout rounds?
Yeah, exactly. Lots of knockout games. We're talking, 3 legs, 5 legs. Just get the games in right now, and then build up to that Final Four.
Comparing it to football, for example, in the the Champions League knockout rounds are starting now. And so at this time of the year, of course, they have a shorter group phase, and that's all going to change, I think, from next season where they have this big old league table. But there is like this big mid-season gap in European football where, you know, the group phase happens and then teams can look completely different then after, you know, December and January by the time they go into the knockout rounds. And that is kind of, that could be reflected in European handball as well, because if you take the national team competitions into account, clubs can look really different after that. You know, like a few years ago, Barca were always the kings of reaching a new level after that international tournament. Players can get injured, and teams could be relying on completely other players for that. So in that sense, yeah, I like that, because in the format that it is right now, with 4 more group games to go. I wasn't commentating last week, so I was kind of like, I'll wait a bit. I'll wait a week or two.
Exactly.
And I think some of the teams were like that as well. However, in the match of the week, there was what some people I saw were saying was one of the best games of the season. In Kielce and Kiel playing a 36-36 draw, which feels like a classic Kielce-Kiel result.
It does, yeah. And I think so again, that's a match that could be a knockout match, you know? That could be the first leg of 3 and we have 2 teams battling out. It was the only match that was really kind of had 2 big teams really fighting for it. So Kielce-Kiel, interesting to see. Again, Kiel is a team to follow in this half of the season, because as a team that had kind of a lot of stars from the European Championship, we had Bilic and Skipper not having as big as a role as like Erik Jönsson, who had a terrible European Championship. So
yeah, he's come back to life.
He's come back to life, but you know, Peckler also was quite good. He's back. So, you know, what we talked about, Kiel, will they change to adapt to, you know, a bit of 7-on-6 with their 2 new stars, Bilic and Skipper? Not so much. They're back doing kind of the same thing as they have been. You know, their 3 top scorers were Erik Jönsson 7, Ekberg 7, Rankin 6. So they're still relying on the big shooters, as they always have from the back. And otherwise for Kielce, Alex Dushabayev is back in good form. Is it worth mentioning? Have you mentioned the story with Konku?
No, I haven't. The last I saw about that is that he was arrested, right? And there was an accusation of rape after the France celebrations in Paris. And with that, Kielce basically said he's not going to play for the team until this is sorted out one way or another.
That's pretty much it. It is, yeah, exactly. Konku, I think, in the celebrations in a nightclub was charged with attempted rape and was in prison for a while, but that has gone quiet. Haven't heard too much, except for, of course, Kielce essentially removing him from all activities for the near future. But pretty crazy story coming out of there.
No, the only thing I'm seeing here in a report from AP that Konku's lawyer did not respond to a request for comment. Attorney Mario Stasi told the French sports daily L'Equipe that his client disputes the facts of the case, and that's the only thing I've seen at the moment. But I mean, in a situation like that, I think Kielce, well, that's the only thing they can do, and the right thing to do. We'll see what comes from that.
Not something you want to see. But yeah, Kiel staying top of Group A. I think after that loss against Magdeburg in the Bundesliga, they're probably shifting all focus to the Champions League at this stage. You know, what can you do? They're pretty far adrift of the Bundesliga standings. You know, they're 8 points behind Füchse Berlin now. Not completely unassailable, but, they're... And 6 points off Magdeburg in that second Champions League spot. So, again, not completely unassailable, but pretty difficult sitting top of Group A, which is probably a surprise ahead of Aalborg, Kielce and PSG.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting group, that one, with Kiel 16 points, and then like a whole myriad of teams just behind them. Aalborg 2 points behind, and then on 14, and then on 13 we have Kielce, PSG, and Szeged with a minus goal difference, but up on 13 points. And they had a big win over a team who probably on a whole had a terrible Euro in Norway, in Kolstad. Yeah. That didn't go well for them at all. And carrying that form into a game which you feel like if they were... I mean, you can lose away to Szeged. That can, of course, happen. But it felt like one of those games where if they could pull off a win, it would be another real sign that they're a proper team. They didn't manage to get the win there, losing by 2 goals. And Sanders Augustin going 2 from 7. And they find themselves currently in 7th place in the group. So out of the playoff spots.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Sanders Augustin. He had one of the most outstanding first halves of the season I've seen from a player. He was kind of my MVP going into the winter break and the European Championship. And then throughout the European Championship himself, he just completely faltered. This game completely faltered. I don't know, maybe it's really mental with Sanders Augustin. We've talked about that with him. And, you kind of think about, in a way, going to Kolstad is relieving pressure, maybe physically, for Augustin not playing in the Bundesliga. But he pretty much has a whole club on his shoulders right now. The whole, will this club survive fully sits on his shoulders, while some people are, jumping ship already. He's standing firm. He's extended his contract until 26 or 27, I think. There's also a few contract extensions for the likes of Sigvaldi Jönsson, who got a contract extension until 2030, which is a real statement of intent from Kolstad. But yeah, they find themselves in trouble, and they play Zagreb next, which is pretty much an elimination game for them. They do need to win that game. They are at home, but there are other, then they have Kielce coming up and Eurofarm Pallister, which they're likely to win, but still to get comfortably ahead of Zagreb, they probably need to beat them.
Yeah, that's a huge game. So there's your knockout handball, Alex. It's come a week later, but Kolstad against Zagreb is your knockout match coming up this week. And over in the other group, there were no real surprises in there. Barca, Magdeburg, and West Brom all picking up wins as they hold the top 3 spots. And that is something else, like on the Kolstad side of things. If they do sneak in and get into 6th place, then probably a playoff match against Veszprem or Magdeburg is likely, which is not a great reward.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting that Veszprem, who've probably been one of the teams that have impressed me the most this season in the Champions League, they actually sit in 3rd place in the group. And that comes down to some weird losses, like, they did lose against Barca, that's fine. But then losing by 7 against Wisła Płock. And there they are. They're sitting in 3rd place outside of the automatic qualifications for the quarterfinal, behind Magdeburg, behind Barcelona. And we'll have to play an extra game, which is a bit strange.
Yeah, the Veszprem playing at home against Magdeburg in the last round there. That could be the decider in that one, to see if they will go in the top two. But also Magdeburg playing at home against Barca. So it could open the door for Veszprem. I feel like that group is going to go down to the wire, depending on how those final couple of weeks go. And besides that, we'll talk about GOG, I think, a little bit later in the Danish chat. But they are relatively comfortable at this point in 5th place. It's another little knockout competition between Płock and Porto on the way between in 6th and 7th place. Both of those sides on 6 points. And let me just see, are they playing each other? Yes, they're playing each other in the last round in Płock. So there, a couple of knockout games for you before the preliminary round comes to an end, Alex.
Yeah, a couple over a couple of months.
Over 3 weeks. Yeah. And the Women's Champions League group phase came to an end last week as well, but we're going to talk about that in more detail in the next podcast as we get a guest on as well and see how those groups ended and look ahead to the knockout games. There's other knockout games for you, Alex, coming, but they had to play all through January after the Women's Championship, which is a whole other topic on that. So you fancy talking a bit of Bundesliga before we go into the interview?
Yeah, I think Magdeburg are the team of the moment, and they came out absolutely hot from the European Championship. Absolutely destroyed Rhein-Neckar Leuven, Kiel, Melsungen, Wisla Plock. Look like an absolutely unstoppable team. Looked like Bernhard Wiegert is never going to shave his beard. And then they lose to Hannover Burgdorf, a team that is... it's looking good. It's a team that has an upset in them. And they won 28-27 against Magdeburg, snapping a 150-day and 30-game win streak for Magdeburg, which is, not win streak, unbeaten streak for Magdeburg, which is pretty insane. This Bergdorf team, of course, is actually filled with a lot of the German under-21 team talents that we got a glimpse of in the Euros. Renners Ustjins at right back, Martin Hanna left back, and Justus Fischer, the line player, all in this Hanover team, which is brilliant talent. They ended up getting a last-second in-flight goal from Ludoslaw Kulesh, which may have been inside, but it is what it is. Hanover Bergdorf got the win. Dished
out by Branko Vujovic as well, so it's the old Kielce connection. As they from a few years ago, the two boys connecting for that winner, and Magdeburg up by 4 at halftime as well. You feel like in a situation like that, this team is just gonna cruise in the second half, but not the case. And the team that looked really, really comfortable, all of a sudden now have some catching up to do with Berlin, the other team who are running away with it. And the great thing is that in a couple of weeks, they're going to meet each other. Magdeburg at home to Berlin in what is going to be an absolutely, basically a title match. There's another knockout game for you, Alex. That's wrong competition.
That's going to be a good one.
That's a proper knockout game because Berlin currently 2 points ahead because of that. And you mentioned Kiel being 6 points behind Magdeburg. Flensburg 4 points behind, and I covered the Flensburg win over Rhein-Neckar Leuven on Sunday. Flensburg, even without Pitlick doing much, looking really, really strong. They finally seem to have properly found their rhythm under Nikolai Krikow, and could be an outside contender, I would say, or at least to confirm themselves as the best of the rest in third place there.
Yeah, of course, Fixer Berlin, Flensburg is going to happen on the 25th of February as well. So big game there. And yeah, that's Magdeburg kind of passed their gauntlet and fell at the hands of Hannover Bergdorf. Victor Berlin start theirs now with a game against Flensburg. Then 2 games later, they play Magdeburg. Then Rhein-Neckar Löwen, who have actually been terrible. So
shocking.
Maybe Rhein-Neckar Löwen is not a difficult game. They've lost 7 games in a row in the Bundesliga, and they're just very unlikable now. How did they go? How did they go from a young, exciting team that looks like they're gonna kind of take on the world to just what's going on here?
Yeah, I really don't know, because you look at the squad and the players in the team, it suggests like on paper just like a really exciting team, and without any real kind of weak areas. I mean, the winger positions on both sides is a trouble for them at the moment, with Gensheimer gone, Grutzky gone. They've had to sign Tobias Reichmann and to bring him up from the 3rd league.
Wow.
He's played the last 2 games for them, and he basically went into semi-retirement, playing in the 3rd division and then starting on the wing and taking their penalties. It says a lot. I mean, he's still a handy player, but he's not as at 35. He's not able to do the fake shot in the air
Double
anymore.
clutch.
He hasn't got that in him, or at least what I saw last week. Basically, it's like Nicholas Kirkeluk are doing everything for them now, and Yuri Knorr just looks tired. He's playing with that kind of attitude. Andy Schmidt was the expert commentator for Dine, the German broadcaster, and I could hear what he was saying pre-match, and he was basically just telling him to get over himself. There's a little bit of frustration there when you see Andy Schmidt talk about the team and Uwe Gensheimer talk about the team, 2 guys who really, built this club into something that we all know of today. And I think that they're pretty frustrated with how the players are dealing with the situation at the moment. And Sebastian Hinze, the coach, I think could be in trouble. Maybe Gensheimer for coach, or Andy Schmidt for coach, a magic coaching duo perhaps, seeing as both are now going out of their handball playing careers. But it's you talked about the gauntlet there for both teams, and I think that result with Hanover winning, reminds us, if we need any reminding, that there is definitely scope for a couple more surprise results. Magdeburg with their full squad, even losing a game like that, you feel like Berlin with their kind of makeshift squad are going to come unstuck at some point against somebody. Maybe not to cost them the title, maybe indeed, but there's one random ass loss in there, or a couple of draws in there for them. Lem go away from home, for example.
It's still up in the air. But shall we go into our interview?
Let's. We're talking about Hanover with their victory, and smooth transition to a former Hanover player. And last night, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I had a chance to speak to Alfred Jönsson from Skjern, one of the most exciting teams in this season's European League. And Alfred has had an interesting career himself. Man who moved to Hanover a few years ago, and with injury issues decided to take the, at the time, unusual step to go back to Scandinavia, to go to Denmark to re-establish himself. And I spoke to him about that, about his attempts to come back to full fitness, his future as well for club and for country. Because Alfred Jönsson, a man who has played for Sweden at the World Championship in 2021, but is qualified to play for the USA, having been born there. So let's speak about that with him and hear what he has to say. But yeah, we're here, 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah.
I think this is the latest interview I've ever done.
Yeah, I think so too, yeah.
And thanks a lot for taking the time to chat. You're in Gothenburg to play Sävehof tomorrow in the European League. It's a really, really interesting group, and always nice to see, I think, a Danish and Swedish team face off against each other. A really good start to the main round for you last week as well against Gorenje Velenje.
That one went better than we expected for sure. Good start. We really need every point here, and then we're kind of hoping for next to lose 1 point so we can get the number 1 position there in the group.
Talk to me a bit about that game, because it ended up being 45-31, like an incredibly high-scoring game. That doesn't just happen every week. Take me into when the game is happening like that, and how the team is feeling when pretty much everything you're doing is just working out and turning into a goal.
Yeah, well, it started off with an intense tempo, and they scored on everything, we scored on everything, we just kept on running the whole game. Scored, I don't know how many attacks we had and how many attacks they had, but it was just an intense game where we think it's the most we have scored this season, for sure. Where every part of the game kind of got put together we did a good game for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And this squad for Skjern, I think, is really interesting in a Danish context, particularly when you look at the players like Noah from France, and you have Joachim from Portugal. Not the kind of nationalities as well that are classically in Danish club teams, and I think Skjern is a club that we've always known to do things a little bit different. I mean, how is your experience with this club, and also with that kind of interesting makeup of the players?
Yeah, I think we're the only team with players from France and Portugal. I think they found 2 diamond gems there. Good scouting there from our sports director, for sure. They have high ambitions, and then those players kind of spice it up a bit. And it's just we have a great atmosphere there, the back players.
What was it about Skjern that enticed you there in the first place? Because you had come off a couple of seasons in Germany with Hanover, and I think for like a player in your position, at least on paper, when it comes to playing the national team for Sweden, playing in the Bundesliga, deciding to go to Skjern then and going to the Danish league is not kind of the classic path, particularly for Scandinavian players. What was it about the club and their offer for you that enticed you?
Yeah, I think Skjern as a club has a very good. The rumor about them is always everybody's telling good things about them. And I think it's one of the top 5 most professional clubs here in the handball world. They do everything so perfectly, and I kind of felt I wanted to go there, be a part of that, and that was pretty much the decision to also for developing my skills, have a bigger role. Didn't have it in the start, but now it's more and more. So it was I wanted to go there because it was an exciting thing for me to develop as a player.
And you said that to also take the responsibility, and we have seen a few players, go from Germany to Denmark, and then let's say maybe older players are looking to relaunch their career, like Gary Tolbring is a great example of that, going to GOG. Was that kind of part of the thinking as well? Because the Bundesliga itself is, I'd say, it's the best league in the world, but it brings with it, I guess, certain downsides physically, and also the not being guaranteed playing time. Was that also some of the factors for you?
I thought it was time to move, and I felt moving to Scandinavia again was the option I would go for. I don't know, one change, and Skjern was a really good option for me. So
and it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, sometimes, ups and downs.
Yeah,
sure.
You've spoken about your injury issues as well that you've had over the years, and how has that impacted you as a player as well? Has it changed kind of what you expected at this point in your career where you are?
Yeah, 100%. It's hard to have an injury and such a important part of your body in the knee. You can't really practice the way you want to do. You can't really move the way you want to do. And in the end, it just gets in your head, where everything just goes bad. So it was mentally challenging as well. But now I got the surgery this summer, and now I would say I'm back at 90% in my knee. So I'm only looking forward to practice and play games now.
Yeah. And so Ribe Esbjerg is the club you're going to next season, right?
For next season, yeah.
That's another club that has been, it's really interesting in Denmark, this kind of mid to upper table, like it's very tight, right? You never really know in a given season who really is a contender. I guess at the moment you see Aalborg and GOG over the last few years are the top 2, but then it's really open. what's part of the thinking behind Ribe Esbjerg then? Is it also a discussion about who else they're bringing in and the kind of team they're building?
I felt, for both parts, Skjern and me, I think the best is to move on and do something else. Ribe Esbjerg was a good opportunity for me. I had a good speak with the coach and the director there. Got a good picture. We saw handball in a similar way, and we kind of matched there. So
great. And so you started your career in Sweden, down in Lugi in Lund. You've played in Germany as well, and now in Denmark, which seems to be the good fit for you at the moment. It's all three leagues very heavily populated by Swedes, of course, and I mean there are some, let's say, obvious things to note in terms of the general level, but thinking back on playing on all three leagues, are there any more kind of subtle differences that you notice and you can tell us about?
We practice a lot more in Sweden. More practice, less games. The level is, of course, not as high in Sweden as in Germany and in Denmark. Germany was a bit tougher. The mentality was way different compared to the Scandinavian style. And here it's just a good vibe. The players, we love each other. We have a great atmosphere in the team where the whole day, we've been traveling for 8 hours, but it felt like 2 because we just chatted all the time. So the difference I would say it's more like a community here. We hang out way more here together as a team and as friends. So
that's nice. So is that part of the reason why you want to stay?
Yeah, that's a huge part for me. It's super important for me to have a meaningful life and just not handball all the time.
What else is in your life outside of handball?
I'm doing my thesis right now.
Okay.
In kind of systemvetenskap, we call it in Sweden, like data science kind of thing. So it will be really nice to be finished with that.
And that's based in Lund, then, the degree?
I started in Lund, but then since I moved to Germany, I had to start off again.
Okay.
So up north in Luleå.
Okay. So you've been remote all the time.
Remote all the time.
How does that balance with being a professional athlete then?
It works good. I have a great connection with the teachers there. They help me. So I think I have like a special treatment kind of way.
Okay.
Where they help me and I do my work, so they are glad.
Is that part of the traveling as well, to around Denmark or around Europe for the games? Always a bit of time to.
I had a seminar today on the way here, so had to do that.
Take me back a little bit to your early life, because as we talked a little bit before recording, we're aware that you were born in Cary, in North Carolina.
True.
Yeah. How did that happen? How did your parents end up there?
At that time, I think it was Sony Ericsson.
Okay.
Yeah, they had a huge office in Lund where my dad worked, and then he got an offer from Cary in North Carolina, and he started working there. And then all of a sudden I was born, and my sister as well. So, and you get citizen by birth in America. So I still have the passport, so I have a dual citizenship. Yeah.
How long did you live there before moving back?
2.5 years.
Okay.
And then went back to Sweden for about 1.5 years again, and then we moved to Beijing in China, where he got a new job there. So I've been around.
A really varied childhood then.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to ask you more about the US side of things in a moment, but it's a leading question, I would say, to something I'm going to ask you in a bit. But first about the Swedish national team, because when you mentioned there about the injury issues and also a lot of changes for you being in Germany and then moving to Denmark, you were kind of flung into the international scene as well at quite an early age, playing for Sweden. I think it was you were 21 at the time, or was it 20?
How old was I? 21, so I was 22,
22.
Yeah.
And then made your debut, and then a couple of months later you were in Egypt at that strange World Championship. Well, first of all, that must have been a great experience to be part of that World Championship. After these years and reflection, what did you make of that experience and flying basically straight into the top level?
It went kind of smooth. Apparently we had a really good team. I didn't think we believed in ourselves before it, and then we just kept on winning. Ended up in the finals where we won against France in the semifinals, and everything just went perfectly all the way through. And it was just an amazing experience to be a part of that, and it was easy to perform with those players around and the coaches and stuff.
In the intervening years, you've had the injury issues, but are you still? What is your relationship at the moment with the national team?
Haven't really spoken to them in the last couple of years. They have other players that perform on a higher level right now, so no sad faces. I'm just fighting every day to trying to get back into that stage and that scene.
Yeah. And that's the leading question then, because there is, as I mentioned before, also a fair few American listeners to the podcast, and also American handball media. And I know one in particular called Team Handball News, a guy called John Ryan. Every time you do something that's online, like a viral goal or any news about you, he's posting saying, "We need this guy. We want him." I know Robert Hedin as well in 2020 had spoken about wanting to get you in. Have they spoken to you, the US, at all in the last couple of years?
I've been speaking to Hedin quite a bit, but right now I'm focusing on getting back to the Swedish national team. But it's, of course, I'm thinking about America as well. It would be an exciting thing to do. They have something going on there. Yep. For sure, I noticed some interest from people and media and stuff. So I've always wanted to, I have an American passport that I kind of want to use sometime. And it's like a dilemma where Sweden is obviously better, but USA is also interesting.
Yeah, they're making some progress. And LA 2028 is kind of the hanging from the tree, this golden opportunity. And I guess you have time as well in that sense if you're focusing on building yourself up again. But it's something that is on your mind for sure.
Yeah. It is. It's a cool opportunity that I have that I will take into consideration for sure.
It's good to maybe make the Swedes a little jealous as well. Let them know that you have an opportunity if they're too slow.
Yeah, but they have players, so you have to fight for that position to be there. So you have to perform. Okay.
Earlier, before we started recording, about how you think handball is such a perfect sport for the American culture. What is it about it that you think connects so well, or could connect?
It could connect,
so well?
Yeah. I think they have some good viewer numbers during some tournaments here. Yeah. Right. The fast-paced game, the speed of the game, I think, and that the fans can come so close to us. And I think we are more closer to the fans in a way. Yeah. I guess it would be a two-way partnership there between the fans and us. I think that would suit super well into America.
Is there certain aspects of American culture that you particularly are connected with yourself, even, besides the passport? Anything you would like to experience over there?
I want to live there someday. Yeah. Not really. It's just a cool country with such a different lifestyle compared to us Scandinavians.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want to go to Cary, North Carolina, no?
I don't know.
Is there a place in particular you're keen on?
Yeah, we're here in Sweden, so LA and New York and those kind of cities are more interesting.
I'll leave you with just a little thing on the games coming up this week. You're playing Sävehof tomorrow as we're recording. A really interesting club as well, and they've been developing some talent. Looking at the way you guys have been playing and the way that they play as well, are you ready to run for another 60 minutes?
It'll be a tough game, 100%. And we need to bring the physical game into the game tomorrow. They are really talented handball players that if they are going to win, they will need to use those talents, and we need to bring our physical game in. On the paper, we are maybe a little bit better, but they have shown now the last against Nexö away. kind of an impossible game, and they almost they went home with 1 point from there. And individual players they have for sure.
It's a fun competition. I know the European League.
It's
been in it
real
the last
fun.
couple of years. It's very different to, say, the Champions League level. You expect a certain kind of thing from it, but it's a little bit of a wild card every week, right?
Yeah, more fun places as well.
Yeah.
Like small towns and good teams as well.
Yeah.
I mean, a Swedish team can come up and compare to being on the level as next to us, and it's really cool.
Nice. Well, I hope for your sake that both of us will never have to do an interview at 10 o'clock at night again, unless it's after a game in the arena. That's a bit more, but this was really nice as well.
I'm glad that
really
you came.
appreciate it. No, thank you so much. Thank you to Alfred. Interesting there as well. He's left his future very much open. It's not exactly a come and get me to the USA, but he has spoken to the coach, Robert Hedin, and keeping his options open, I would say, in the build-up to LA 2028, which I think will be very good news for our American listeners as well, who are hoping for a player like that to really take that team to the next level. So we'll stay on the Denmark team, and over the weekend there was the Danish Cup Final4 you mentioned earlier, Alex, and in terms of the recent history, not a surprise winner, but based on how things have gone this season, GOG winning the cup is not something we probably expected.
Something I definitely didn't expect. I think Aalborg have easily been the best team in the competition so far, in Denmark so far. GOG off the pace, having their issues on and off the court, changing coach. You know, it's also dramatic. And the Santander Final Four in Denmark had drama itself, but a drama of the good kind. You know, GOG literally scraped through to the final. They beat Fredericia, who have actually been very impressive in Denmark. In extra time, it was 30-30 at the end of normal time, but then GOG were able to kind of push on and win 34-31 to then get that final spot against Aalborg. Emil Madsen had an absolutely unbelievable game. He had 19 goals, 16 of them in regular time, and 3 of the 4 goals in extra time, with 5 assists as well. He was outstanding.
And he was spoken to on court. He had like a flash interview on the court afterwards where he's just like bent over on the halfway line, completely exhausted as he's being asked about the game. And one of those situations, he said himself, like, after a game like that, I can't celebrate, and I'm just really glad we're in the final, because I'm not sure I'd be up for playing the bronze medal match tomorrow after a match like that. Yeah, incredible solo effort from him. And both games went to extra time in the semi-finals. Also Aalborg coming through against Bjerringbro. So setting up the dream final. But it didn't really turn out to be a dream final unless you're a GOG fan, huh?
Yeah, it was a dream final for any Tobias Tulin fans. Looking at you, Chris O'Reilly, he had a really outstanding game and pretty much shut down Aalborg. And as GOG just raced ahead, and I don't know what it is with Aalborg and this GOG team, but Aalborg have some sort of mental stop against these young guns from Foon, and really it was an easy victory in the end for GOG, 32-25. Mads Hoxer was a shining light for Aalborg, but otherwise not too much going for them. Emil Madsen still, got himself 8 goals in that final. He did manage to get up for it, and GOG win another cup, and they do it in front of a record-breaking crowd of over 10,000 people in the Jyske Bank Boxen arena. So again, the popularity of handball in Denmark for sure is not doubted. But yeah, interesting to see if GOG can actually push on from this and challenge Aalborg for the league title as well. Again, the beauty of or the terrible part of the Danish league is that the first part of the season is really to get into the playoff rounds, and the top 8 teams get into the playoff rounds. So GOG, while they're a distance off Aalborg at the moment, they are easily into the playoff rounds and have an opportunity to get through to the final and challenge Aalborg, who have been the best team in the competition.
Yeah, just one thing on the middle of that game, and you mentioned Tobias Thulin having a stormer. Just 2 goals in 19 minutes for Aalborg midway through that game, which really cost them. And by the end of that period, they were 20 goals to 12 down, and really no way coming back from that, as they lost by 7 in the end. But I think it applies a little bit to Skjern as well. Going back to our chat with Alfred, I mean, Skjern haven't had the best of times in the league this season, but they are going to get into the playoffs almost certainly. They're in 7th at the moment, and it's not a complete reset, but almost, because you take a couple of points with you depending on where you finish in the league, but basically wide open for all of those teams going through. And Skjern could get a couple of wins to take them even into the top 4, because they're 3 points behind GOG, and that's going to be a nice playoff round, that's for sure. I think if GOG are beginning to find their rhythm, Aalborg would be getting worried, and there's some criticisms coming through now. I saw an article from Bent Nygaard on TV2 about this Aalborg team, basically highlighting what you mentioned there about their mental block, and kind of reminding everyone that this team that has spent all this money over the last couple of years actually hasn't seen any success since they spent all that money. The last time they actually did something of note in his mind is before all the big names arrived. So yeah, adding a little bit more pressure on this team, on Stefan Madsen as well, who has orchestrated this team's rise before the money and the big names came in. So although they're top of the Danish league and doing pretty well in the Champions League, nothing in the trophy cabinet to show for it. So that'll be an interesting little storyline developing over the coming months. But I think that'll do it for this episode of the Uninformed Handball Hour. We'll be back later in the week with a morning club. For those of you on Patreon, those of you not on Patreon, good time to join as well, just in time for the morning club. And we'll be back as well shortly with another podcast on the Women's Champions League. So thank you to Alex and thank you to Alfred. We'll catch you next time. Goodbye.